Dan. We're here, the best damn pod in the land. We've made it through another week. I'm, at home, doing good. So, what's going on with you? Gosh, I can't keep up with the amount of Buckeye news going on. So, hopefully, you can
It's
help me.
it's coming fast and furious, right?
It
We were
is.
joking about the dead period that's coming up, and it's almost like, man, I don't
Dead
want to say it out
period.
loud, but I might be able to. I might need a break.
Yeah.
But as you and I both know, as soon as that break comes, we're going to be miserable. So,
Yeah. Well,
let's keep it going.
you and I have discussed this too. During the dead period, we have some things planned. Breaking down each team and kind of what we think their record will be, and so we've got some stuff to talk about. And then there's never really a dead period. We thought last week or 2 weeks ago during spring break would be a dead period, and then Tony Alford does what he does, and so here we are talking about what we're doing at running backs coach and everything else. So. What are we doing at running back, coach?
There started to be some rumors yesterday because the running back coach at South Carolina apparently was made unavailable for interviews, and there's starting to be some murmurs out there about, at least within their fan base, that he might be jumping over here. And
he was at Ole Miss too, right? Like this is the same guy.
Yeah, if you look at his background, he's been at like 9 places in the last 10 years. But when I listened to an interview of his yesterday, when I listened to an interview of his yesterday when he was introduced at South Carolina, he said, "Listen, I know that gets used against me on the recruiting trail, but I just have conversations and communicate. If you look at my track record, everything's been a progression." Right? He goes, "I've advanced in position, I've advanced in the schools, the quality of the schools, and that's what a career is about." So I like the way he handled that. He's got an interesting background. He did 2 years at Toledo. He was Kareem Hunt's coach.
Yeah,
he talked about how he had to get Kareem to realize his potential and buy into what it takes to be a college athlete. So that was pretty interesting. He recruited Q at Ole Miss and coached him during his freshman season, when I want to say he led the SEC in rushing.
Yeah, he had like 19. Yeah, he had a ton of carries that year. Like, I don't remember how many it was, but it was a lot.
It was like over 300.
Yeah, it was a ton. They abused him. Yeah,
but I don't know. We'll see. I'm a little surprised I haven't heard anything about it on any of the beat shows over the last 24 hours. But
yeah. So I'm with you. So the Kareem Hunt thing, like I was doing a dive into some of the information that you and I were exchanging last night via text, and the Kareem Hunt thing is interesting to me for sure. Because I was trying to remember how long Jason Candle had been at Toledo as well, because he was rumored to be in the running for the Ohio State offensive coordinator position. So I was trying to figure out if the two had like ever crossed paths, Jason Candle and the coach from South Carolina. And then I did see the Quinshon Judkins thing, which is nice. I'm not like it's interesting to me because again, we've talked about this. Brian Hartline didn't have the pedigree as a recruiter necessarily until, the last few years. And maybe Ryan Day's okay with that. So Quinshon Judkins is a good pull. Kareem Hunt, at Toledo, well, it was Toledo, so it is what it is. He turned it into a great career. I was curious whether or not, does this guy, what was his name before we just go too far? Markel. Yeah, Blackwell. Yeah.
Blackman?
Yeah. Where, like what's his pedigree essentially? And, so and yes, I get it. I remember, and you probably do too. Like when we were younger, we were always trying, we'd be at a job 2 years and we'd jump to another job to try to advance and advance and advance. So I don't fault him for that. So running backs coach at Ohio State is a step above being at South Carolina, in my opinion. No offense to you, South Carolinians. But it's Ohio State, Georgia, and everybody else right now. So,
well, he also had a year at Texas A&M too. So
I saw that.
Bjork would be familiar with him as well, right?
Yeah, I saw that. So I was just gonna pose that to you. Do you think this is a Ross Bjork, in the year of Ryan Day? Hey, I got a guy.
I don't know if it's Bjork saying, "Hey, I've got a guy," any more than it is Ryan having this guy on the radar and being able to go to Bjork and say, "Hey, what do you know?"
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So either way, I'm comfortable. I mean, that's the way it works, right? I mean, Ryan didn't have the coaching tree that Urban Meyer did, so you tap into things, and the people that play a huge role in that, in connecting coaches with coaches that they've never coached with before, is the agent community.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So they have a huge influence behind the scenes as to who goes where and who gets connected with who. And so it goes back, Chad, to whatever and whoever we bring in, I'm going to be good with.
Yeah.
Because it's as long as, let me qualify that. As long as they're willing to work their tail off and get on the recruiting trail, then it's going to be an upgrade.
Yeah, so here's my last little snippet on this is I had noticed a Twitter post from Marquise Davis at Michigan, because he has that relationship with Tony Alford. He went to visit Michigan, and he's an Ohio kid. We've got Bo Jackson in Ohio, and then they were in on Jordan Davidson. I want to keep those Ohio kids in Ohio, man. And it bothered me a little bit. And it still kind of bothers me a little bit that we don't have somebody in the seat yet to get, keep things going. I know Ryan Day has been reaching out. So, that's one thing, I guess, a bonus thing. And then, it was a little bit weird because I didn't think Marquise Davis was interested at all in Michigan, and then all of a sudden he's there visiting. So, if you listen to Bill Curley, he doesn't think too much of the visit other than, it's a visit, and these kids are going to take their visits because they're getting, AirPods and Nike shoes and, $5,000 per visit. And,
for officials. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you, so Larry Johnson, I want to know, do you think he took a shot at Tony Alford in his interview this week? It sure seemed like it,
dude,
right?
He unequivocally took a shot at Tony Alford. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved what he had to say. He did it in a very sly, respectful, articulate, well thought out way.
Yep.
But yeah, no, man, that was shade. It was
not going to recruit a kid and then leave.
It was a total eclipse of the heart shade. It was beautiful. It was really cool. On that note, it was really cool to hear him talk, and man, am I excited about the D line right now. To hear him talk about these guys and then to hear these guys talk. I think you've been on it a little bit more than I have. I know you're a big K-Mac fan.
Oh yeah.
But to hear the feedback that he gave and to hear some of those guys talk, I mean, you got Jason Moore, 6'5", 300.
Yep.
And K-Max at 6'2", 335.
Yep.
And for him to say that Jason Moore has not yet had a bad day, for him to verbalize that out loud, I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember last year, but last year during the summer and during summer camp, Berm was all over the Jason Moore and Cade McDonald train because he was saying Jason Moore could possibly play as a true freshman, which is saying a lot on a defensive line. And he was just kind of this sneaky pickup that they got. And, I was excited about it because I enjoy like the defensive line and the defensive tackles in particular. And then when Cade McDonald chose us over Georgia, and coming out of Georgia, I was like, oh man, like he's going to be a game wrecker. And he's like Tyleik Williams, except for I think he's going to, I don't know. Tyleik Williams played his butt off last year. Should have been an All-American. So if we get that kind of play out of him, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, I like that they put Caden McDonald in at fullback too. That's fun.
Well, have you ever seen his high school tape as a running
back? Oh yeah. He's a beast, man.
I mean, I think he was 3 bills at that point.
So, yeah, he was a 295, something like that. Yeah.
I coached a kid. I coached freshman ball in Georgia in 2010, and I had a kid that was about 6'5", and he was like 305, 310. I couldn't put him in. I couldn't put him in to run the ball because he didn't have that type of athletic ability. And that's why I share the story, is that to think of that kid, I was a grown man.
Yeah.
And if that kid was able to run the ball and he's coming and I'm going downhill and he's coming downhill, I'm turning into a matador.
Yeah.
I'm like, Andale gets right by me, right?
Olay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dorn, don't give me this Olay bullshit. Get in front of the damn ball.
Oh man, opening day was yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, man. That was a woo train.
Yeah, Voigt got his first
major
win.
league. Yeah.
Bieber was sharp.
Yeah.
11-6. Nice.
Yeah.
But and then the Jason Moore thing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure he was recruited as an edge, and he thought he was going to play an edge, or everybody was recruiting him as an edge. And Larry was, LJ was the one that said, "Hey, you know what? I really think your future's here." And he's bought into it. And to think that Berm thought he looked like he could play last year, he's 30 pounds heavier this year than he was last year.
Yeah. So that again, people talked about like what a sneaky pickup he was, and like how he could fill out, and LJ was 100% right. As usual, there's a reason they call him the GOAT, man. And I'm excited to see them. And the other one that people have been talking about is Will Smith Jr. and his motor. Let me paraphrase that with he may not have the athletic attributes that his dad did, but his motor, man, like the guy just never stops. He's like never gives up. And so and I want to ask you this, and this is in line with what I was thinking. So why are we not hearing about Tywone Malone? When they brought him in the transfer portal last year, people were like, he could start now. He was from the SEC, but he's only going to focus on football. Yeah, like, so why are we hearing about all these other guys? And are they passing up Tywone Malone? What's going on?
Well, LJ did talk about him quite a bit the other day, and
he did.
He mentioned that. Listen, up until this year, he was playing baseball this time of the year.
Right.
This is the first spring that he's gone through as a college football player.
Yep.
Having said that, he gave good feedback. I mean, he said it's there. He said the progress is there. He said the effort's there. He said the talent is there. The ability is there. I think we're going to see him certainly more than we did last year. Now, this all hinges on what? Using our rotation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about that on Tuesday from Johnson. So
talks cheap, man.
Hopefully we're going to see that.
Talks cheap.
And up until last year, there was a rotation.
Fair enough.
I don't know what led
Although
to
it was a crappy one.
Yeah, I don't know what led to it being so light last year, other than I guess those guys just not being ready.
Yeah, depth.
The only one that didn't give me, the only one I got concerns about is Kenyatta. For him to vocalize and to verbalize in his interview that he doesn't know, why he hasn't played more, and that he's not even getting the reps this spring that he thought he would. That's a little bit of a red flag for me. And you hear LJ mention consistency, Ryan Day mentioned confidence and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Kid's got all the talent in the world.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see him play a lot especially I'm going to use the spring game and spring scrimmages, because JT and Jack don't need to, like that. Yeah. You don't need, you can save those bullets. We know what we have there. So he's going to get a lot of reps. He's going to get a lot of looks. Caden Curry as well. And quite honestly, I'm going to be very cautious how I say this. Arvell Reese is ready to go if Kenyatta can't. And so, and you also have Josh Mickens, who anytime he got on the field last year at the end of the game, he was living in the backfield because of his speed off the edge. Now I know people talked about him as a edge rusher or a jack, if we want to say that, but did I say Josh Mickens?
You did.
I did. That's not who I wanted. Mitch Melton.
There you go.
Wow, man. Woo. I just realized what I said. Mitch Melton.
Mickens is out there too.
Yeah.
It's nice to have some success with a guy from Louisiana.
Yeah. So there's there's other players there, but I am on the Arvell Reese train. So, a
So
Glenville kid.
you're putting him out the edge?
Yeah, I would put him at the in a Rushman package. Absolutely.
Okay, in the Rushman package, sure. But I thought you meant as far as a depth piece at DN.
Oh, no, no.
He's a linebacker.
No, not okay. Like permanently. I should like, put
You're
quotes around what I'm
bear
saying.
front. You want that bear front, don't you?
I do like the 44. You better believe it, man. I'm a child of the 80s, man.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I came away really excited about it. I love Caden Curry's mentality. He almost went DB33 on us and got a little pissed at the idea of, somebody asking, why are you still here?
Oh, yeah.
So, I love it. I'm really, really excited after this week.
Okay.
Then I don't know if you want to talk about the tight ends. Well, it's actually on the board. So
it is on the board. Yeah. So I actually okay. This is our favorite topic. We love to do this. So what in the world is going on with the quarterbacks, Dan? Like what is happening right now?
Oh,
I saw your Twitter. Yeah. So we always talk about this, how I just don't argue with people on Twitter. I just don't do it. And I saw your post about Sayin, and I saw some of people saying what they're saying, but Tony Alford in a video, and the Twitter sleuths, and so what is going on, and I shared with you some information I have before the show yesterday in a text, and I believe it to be true. And so what do you think? Like, what?
I mean, I think Julian Sayin is a really, really talented, well-developed, advanced, true freshman. I also have got some information from last Saturday that he did well. He got a chance because of the way the rotation went, and it was nothing more than that. It's not because he's intentionally getting reps with the ones, right?
Correct.
They have these sessions, and they for whatever reason they're rotating now, either every 2 plays or every series or whatever. And because of the way it rolls, and we've got 5 quarterbacks, but we don't have 5 O-lines, that his turn came up and it happened to be with the ones, and he looked good. He played well. He had some nice throws, and that he is performing well. I'll be the first to point out that he still's got his black stripe, man. So, and to me that says something.
Yep.
I don't think that they would hold off on pulling his black stripe before Will Howard just to save Will Howard's feelings. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that if he's done something to justify having it pulled off, that it would have been pulled off by now. So everyone needs to slowly roll. We're 6 or 7 practices into this thing. Nobody's really gone live yet in a game situation, even last Saturday. But with that being said, the kid's uber talented. I mean, he's beyond his years, and he's somebody to be excited about down the road. Do we name him QB2? I talked about this on Twitter the other day. I think that would be a catastrophic mistake coming out of spring to put a depth chart in the quarterback room. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll be shocked, absolutely shocked, if Day announces a depth chart in the quarterback room coming out of spring with the portal window getting ready to open. It'd be bad business.
Yeah. So I will harken back to a couple different things. The first is, the Justin Fields versus everybody else, Chris Chuckinoff and that era. Day waited until like a week and a half before the break of fall camp before he announced Justin Fields. Same with Stroud. Same with McCord. So we're not going to
differences with those 3 though,
right? Yeah.
With Justin, I mean, everybody knew Justin was getting 70, 80, 85% of the reps. CJ was as well going into his second season, first year as a starter. I mean, everyone knew whether it was announced or not. Last year we had a true competition, right? This year, who knows, man? I mean, it's amazing to me though that, Devin, he just gets discounted so much, and that's not what's happening in practice.
Yeah, so here's kind of the reason I teed you up, because I know you're passionate about this. Sorry, I knew this would get you going. So I will say a few things that I know for a fact to be true. Number one, Devin has the strongest arm on the team, period,
Yep.
over the quarterbacks. Number two, I've been told that Sayin throws probably the most catchable football. Fair enough.
Accuracy
Number
and placement, right?
Yep, accuracy and placement. And Will Howard apparently has a I don't want to I hate to use the word machismo, but like a confidence about him that the guys really like. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to
More
leave
so
out
than
Aaron.
Brown.
I think Brown is a very vocal, fiery leader,
Yeah.
and we know that to be true. So again, all those things can be true at the same time. It doesn't mean anything right now. So until you have live bullets coming at you, and I tweeted this yesterday, until I get to see these guys under center and on the field in live game reps at the spring game, even last year I had a better feeling coming out of the spring game of where we would be, but I didn't have a great feeling because Devin was hurt and he couldn't
Yeah.
throw because he hurt his pinky finger. So I saw what I thought I needed to see out of Kyle McCord, but again, I didn't get to see Devin Brown. So we had
Last year in the spring game, man, I felt awful about the QB
yeah.
situation watching Kyle.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I saw what I
Yeah.
needed to see,
Okay.
I'm not trying to run Kyle down. So it's not in my nature to do that. So at any rate, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. I think I want to see Will Howard and Devin Brown, with the ones, and I'll get a feel for kind of how that looks, how that what they're doing with each of the receivers, where they and you really there's a lot that goes into that, and we can and then we'll have film that we can break down too. We can see
Yeah.
how they're setting their feet, we can see how comfortable they are in the offense, we can see what their reads are. And then it being a Fox telecast makes it easier for like us to DVR. Those are the kind of things that help.
Yeah. Here's my biggest concern is that, first of all, as I just said, I think it would be horrible business decision if Ryan alludes to any sort of a depth chart in that room coming out of spring before and during the portal being open. Okay. Having said that, as soon as that portal window is closed, I want Ryan to be decisive this year. He needs to figure it out way faster than he did last year. You know how I feel about that. Is that I don't think either one of those guys were able to get into a groove last year.
No, they weren't.
And then all of a sudden it's like they went from splitting reps up until the first game to Kyle playing the entire first game and Devin never really truly getting a shot to do the same thing with game action. I don't he's going to have to pick somebody before that so that they're ready and they're not getting used to it during the game.
I mean, if
that makes sense. That wasn't very articulate.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I agree with you that he needs to pick somebody and ride with it, and that's who you're going to run with. And then if it doesn't go well, then you can always reverse course. Like the Tua and Jalen Hurts situation. That there is that option. So, if you put my feet to the fire right now, and I was gonna say, hey, I think this is what's gonna happen. I think that it's gonna go into August, probably the first part of August, before Day really has his thumb on who's going to start. But that's just a gut feeling, just listening to all the different things. And listen, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, we're not at practice. We get information from different places and we talk to different people. We're not insiders, but like we do have people that talk to us and tell us a few things here and there, and that's where my information comes from too. Like and we can glean from that all we can, but even the media has limited access to the practice, so they're only seeing some stretches and some on air balls, and they're going off of that. with the best that they can. Unless I think like the podcast, I think Austin Ward, maybe has some inside information perhaps that people tell him, but
yeah. Well,
yeah.
here's the wild card to all that, Chad.
Yeah.
They can play it that way.
Yeah.
But is his hand going to be forced by one or two guys? And I think those guys would be, I think it could be Will Howard.
Yeah.
And if Will Howard doesn't feel like there's a definitive, like it's not decided yet coming out of spring, could he say, listen, I need to know?
Well, yeah, he's a fifth-year senior. He needs to know.
Exactly. And then the other one's Lincoln.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if
Lincoln, I always forget about Keenholz.
If Lincoln's going to be fourth on the depth chart, which is what I think he will be, he starts to become a transfer guy.
Yeah. Well, you and I have talked offline, and I never put people in the transfer portal. I don't do it. Like that's not my mojo. But I could understand, given the current situation in the quarterback room, if that was under consideration for him.
Yeah. And then, Devin's always said the right things.
Yeah.
But, if Day was to say, listen, it's Will and Julian,
I don't think
at that point, I'm not blaming Devin for looking elsewhere.
No. And, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you're passionate about that, man. I love to get you going on the quarterbacks. All right. So I don't know if you caught it, but I did. So the crystal balls started rolling in for TJ Alford for Ohio State, which excites me. And I jokingly said last week I was at 92%. I'm going to up that to 93.4%. And
is that the favorite station on your radio dial or something?
It actually is, but yeah. Well, 95.5 is actually my favorite station up here that I can get, but yeah. So yeah, 95.5.
Emily rips on me because I actually still listen to the radio in my car, and it's not.
I still do.
Spotify or Sirius or something.
Well, it's either that or the Bluey CD that my kids have, and I can only listen to that so many times. So, so yeah, the crystal balls start rolling in for TJ Alford. I feel good about it. Still feel good about it. Today, tomorrow's the announcement date. I haven't heard anything at all that would make me feel like these are inaccurate. But we've been there before with Marquise Lightfoot and some others where with Miami where they get in really late. Justin Scott's another one. With that bag drop. So I'm not holding my breath, but I still feel confident in saying that I think TJ Alford will commit to Ohio State. It's a long road to December still. We're only in March. So, and then Ohio State offered Diabell. So he didn't have an official offer from Ohio State yet. So I saw that they offered him. And then I see that Mason Short put us in the top 4 for the offensive lineman. He put us in the top 4 for them.
Did that happen this week?
Yeah, so it's Clemson, Kentucky, Ohio State, and Georgia. So really interesting.
He's in Evans, Georgia.
Yeah, a really interesting group too, because Kentucky's in there. And then Ohio State offered Brody McOrder, 2026 quarterback.
I've actually got some insight on him.
Out of Cartersville, Georgia. So they've been busy ever since the commitment of Jared Curtis. They've been out seeing some quarterbacks. So, give me the lowdown on McOrder.
So here's what I know. He's from Cartersville Cass High School, which is next to where Trevor Lawrence played from.
Okay.
The feedback I got yesterday was, and this is from somebody who's in the Cartersville feeder system.
Okay.
Is that he's realistically, if you peeled back the onion, he's probably got half the talent around him that Trevor Lawrence did.
Okay.
And has been every bit as good, if not better, performance-wise. He's got either a cousin or a brother, I want to say, at Arkansas.
Okay.
And that they would be shocked if that's not the way that he leaned. Because all the talk is that they're going to play together. I think it's his brother. Okay.
All right.
But I think he's a rising junior, right?
He is. He's a 2026. Yep. So again, this is based off of this is based off of the Jared Curtis commitment where we thought we were leading for him.
Changed.
Yeah,
the
it
whole
has.
Board has changed, right? And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. See if he keeps taking visits or not.
Yeah.
I think the Corey Dennis thing's hurt us a little bit.
It
He was
has.
good, he was a really good
Certainly.
recruiter. Kids liked him. But I mean, I'm not worried about it. What's interesting, Chad, is that I really want to dig into these guys' film and see what their game is, because some of these guys are pocket passing type guys, and everybody's assuming that Chip's going to want somebody that can run and be a dual threat. And I'm not sold anymore. I think Ryan might be winning that tug of war a little bit as to the ideal prospect.
Yeah. So, the guy that, jokingly rings my bell is Diabell. So, 6'2", 195. He's out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Runs a very similar offense to what Ryan Day already does. Quick. He's a quick kid. I think I saw where he runs like a 4.47 or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but like it was fast. It like made my eyes go, wait, what? And he averaged like 5 yards per run. He's lean. He's lean. He needs to put on some weight, but
he's
here
an
it
American
is.
Heritage kid, right? Which is where
American Heritage. Yeah. So he's last year 122 for 189, about 2,000 yards, 20 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 48 rushing attempts.
This is as a sophomore, and he was the starter.
Yeah. Well, he started as a freshman too. Or no, wait, he played as a freshman, didn't start as a freshman. He has freshman stats on here. Yeah. So, what's interesting here though is he had 48 rushing attempts and only 86 yards on the season. So maybe.
Yeah, I think he runs when he needs to. Now, they're going to take sacks out of that, but who knows how much he was sacked. At a school like that, he's probably not getting sacked a lot. So, that's my point, is that, like, here's a guy that's got the ability to run, but he doesn't have a track record of it. He doesn't have a film for it. What's Chip looking for? What's Ryan going to concede to with Chip? The other kid, there's another kid, since we're talking about quarterbacks, and this is really getting ahead of ourselves, but there's an 8th grader in Florida who started on the varsity at a school, not the best competition, but when I watched his film the other day, I was blown away. I mean, this kid was making, side to side reads. He was going through his progressions. He was throwing receivers open, and he's in 8th grade, and he's on South Florida Express. So I think he's going to be up here this weekend. Apparently, South Florida Express is coming up with their whole contingency this weekend.
Okay.
So, quarterbacks, man, I played the position. I wasn't nearly as big then as I am now. It's so hard to get a read on kids when they're still that young.
Yeah. So other interesting fact about Diabell is he's the son of Raja Bell, the NBA star.
Yep.
So, I was just trying to read some of his profile here. He plays soccer, baseball, tennis, and basketball, as well as football. When he was younger. Yeah, so he's multi-sport.
When he was younger. So what does that really mean?
Yeah.
What's he doing in high school?
It doesn't say. And then it also talks about his grandfather played wide receiver at the University of Miami when they were winning national championships. So, anyways, for what it's worth, he's one to keep your eyes on, guys.
Just made me feel old.
Yeah. Well, it happens to the best of us, man. Father time is undefeated.
Yeah.
As I tell my wife.
That means somebody that's probably a little bit older than me has got a 15-year-old, 16, 17-year-old grandkid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It happens, man.
Yeah. So it's interesting with Curtis, just to kind of summarize, with Curtis committing, it definitely reset our board.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're starting to hear a lot of names that we haven't heard otherwise. I'm really curious to see, you got to start putting the dots on the board, right? And start slotting these guys. And, if Julian's everything that they say that he is, the reality is that if he doesn't get on the field this year, he's probably starting the next 2 years, right?
Right.
So then what does that mean for Brown? Because Brown's got 2 years of eligibility left. Or does he have 3? He's got 3.
He came in the year after Stroud, 2022, I think.
Yeah, and he redshirted.
Yeah.
And then last year was his first year on the field. So Devin's got 3 years left. You got Tavian coming in, who I'm really, really excited about. But if you start doing the math and you're like, okay, if Julian's in his first year and he starts as a true sophomore, and that means Tavian's not starting as his 3rd year, which would be a redshirt sophomore. Are we starting to see a shift with these quarterbacks to going back to a little bit of reality to where, hey, you know what? I might need to be in the program for 4 to 5 years to maximize my play time and my draft capital.
Yeah, my biggest, like, if I have a fear, it's the Dwayne Haskins fear, where it's the 1 year and done, where he threw for 50 touchdowns and he got drafted in the first round, and so that very easily could happen in the scenario you gave with Tavian St. Clair. I'm excited for him. Bellefontaine's not that far from me, man, and I kind of want to go to one of his games because it's about 40.
I'm going to be upset with you because I need
some 45 minutes. Yeah. So it'd be cool to do. So he's I think he's the future. I like Sayin as well. So all right, so we're gonna do the tight ends just because I know that you love to talk about tight ends. So what do we do right now? What would you do? This is the question I put it to you. What would you do if you were the tight end coach right now? Like, where's your mind at? Like, you're Coach Keenan Bailey. Where are you at? What are you gonna do?
First of all, his interview on Tuesday was the first time that I've heard him talk.
Oh yeah, he's dynamic though.
He is, but man, God, I want to put this the right way.
I'll just say it.
And maybe it's because the stories out there about him getting his ass kicked by the strength coach recently, but he just seemed like he was trying to seem tough.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't genuine.
Okay.
I don't know Key's background. I don't know where he played, what he played, or anything else like that. I got to look into that.
Yep.
But that interview, he came off as, and maybe it's because he just got got humbled a little bit in front of his guys and stuff like that. But man, he seemed like he wanted to come off as a tough guy.
Yeah.
And I get it. You got to get, that's one of the things that we needed that room to do is to be willing to block. And that's tough. You got to be a tough guy to do that. But I don't know, man. I'm not impressed after that interview. Okay. I know he's well liked. I know he's
played it.
He's Ryan's lackey, right? Every head coach has a guy that is his water boy, that he knows he can trust and is loyal and everything else like that. But anyways, what were you going to say about where he's played and everything?
Oh, so he's a Notre Dame alum. And he was an analyst for 2 years at Notre Dame before joining Ohio State. His coaching staff. He's from Pompano Beach, Florida. I don't see anything about him playing.
Interesting.
At all.
So, yeah, I don't know. Because that, in my opinion, what we saw to Cade Stover, that was Cade Stover's upbringing, right? I mean, what we saw from Cade Stover on the field, that's just who Cade Stover is. That's his DNA. That's his makeup. That's his family background. He is a tough farm boy. What we saw in the Missouri game, from G. Scott, and Jelani got on the field for a couple plays. Like, I mean, I'm there. We have a long way to go in that room, man. And I listened to G. Scott's interview, and I think G. Scott is a phenomenal kid. I love his dad. But I'm trying to
he did not play college football.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how you balance this peace, love, and harmony message that's coming out of our locker room, which I am all for. I love a lot of the stuff that these guys are talking about, but I'm trying to figure out how you balance that with the violence required in football.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing that in that position room right now.
Okay. Well,
Jelani impressed me, his interview. Yeah. Which was surprising because I've heard rumblings that he's had a hard time buying into the college game and responsibilities. But I was impressed by what Jelani had to say, at the very least.
Yeah, so I think that we've come into this era where we have two different types of tight ends, and I think it's always kind of been that way, but it's even more prevalent now because now we have Damarian Witten coming in as well, and Damarian Witten and Jelani Thurman are cut in a very similar mold where they're. I have a hard time seeing them being inline blockers, true inline blockers. While they could get better at their craft, I have a hard time seeing that. And then you have the Ben Christians or Christian Bennett, whatever his name is. I don't know. I really messed that up.
Bennett Christian.
Yeah, Bennett Christian. My fault on that. Like went way down in the depth chart in my brain. And then Will Kazmarek, who while I think he has pretty good hands, looking at his tape from OU, I think we thought was going to be tight end one and on the line of scrimmage. And all indications are he's having and this isn't just us, the podcast daily, really talked a lot about this. And I if you go back, like I think episode 4, we talked about, and I mentioned, you're making a big jump from OU to Ohio State, and they can talk about it all they want, but we're not on the field yet. And then we get on the field, and what do we find out? It is a big jump. It's not the same, and he's struggling. And so, not the first time, not you and I's first rodeo with this stuff. And we called it, we talked about it. We said that, that could very well happen. And here we are. And it has. Now, I'm not saying he can't catch up, and a lot of gains are made behind the scenes in the summer, a lot, you go through summer workouts and summer practice and get into the fall camp. A lot can change and a lot can happen. But right now, I'm genuinely a little more concerned now that I've had some time to look at it.
Well, the dark horse in this, as of the last 24 to 36 hours for me, is Bennett Christian. And number one, we finally were informed as to what happened. I mean, he bought something at GNC, which I know these kids are told not to do that.
Yep, they are.
But, he bought something at GNC. It popped. It's not like he was shooting himself up or anything else like that.
Yep.
I have no reason to doubt that story. But I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody made a point on one of the other shows that, he wasn't not around last year. He was the scout team tight end. And he was basically, Monday through or, Sunday through Friday was going against JT and Jack and just, playing that role on the scout team all of last year. That's good experience. Those are good reps. So
it is.
It's, and which tells me and what I heard is that he performed well. Like, he was a valuable member of that scout team, which tells me he had to have been willing to block if he's going against those guys. So who knows? I mean, he was a highly regarded kid coming out of high school. He was what, a 4-star?
Yeah. So let me throw 2 more names at you, and because I'm just genuinely curious. So Max LeBlanc, a true freshman, coming in, and then a guy that we kind of always forget about, who did play some last year, Zach Herbstreit. Both tight ends.
I thought you were going to say Patrick Gerd, because we've apparently.
Gerd's an H back, man. He's my new H back. He's
Mitch Rossi.
He's my Mitch Rossi. Mitch, I miss you.
I mean, a true freshman at tight end.
I know.
There's no record of that in this program of taking place. I mean, if Jelani couldn't get on the field last year, even as a receiver, and with Cade being banged up, I don't see that happening. And then Zach, I don't know what his story is health wise.
Yeah, that's true. I know he got on the field some last year, and I think the last true freshman tight end I can honestly remember playing was Ricky Dudley.
Yeah, different time.
Yeah. I was just trying to remember, did we ever play?
I thought Zach was. I thought he was out. He had an illness or something, didn't he? He didn't get on the field last year, did he?
He played because I remember watching Joel Klatt. We were blowing somebody out. It might have been Iowa, and or excuse me, it was Kirk Herbstreit. So it must have been. It was one of the games ESPN did. He's like, "I see you 85" or whatever his son's number is. But yeah, because they were kidding and joking in the booth, him and Chris Fowler, and it wasn't somebody we were supposed to blow out, but we did, and it's probably Indiana or something. And he's like, "I see you," so he got in the game. But that could have been year before last too. I could be.
I think it was the year before last because Kirk didn't do any of our games last year.
I could be
because remember the Big Ten. The Big Ten was mainly Fox and maybe I don't know. Could be wrong.
Yeah, he's in his third season, so that could be.
Yeah.
Played in his first collegiate games in 2022, Toledo, Wisconsin, and Rutgers. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. I'm excited to see how Chip uses Jelani.
Yep.
That tight end position's been ruined a little bit because
of Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because of the numbers that Gronk and Travis Kelce put up. But what these guys need to understand, they need to go and watch their film. Like those guys are willing to do the dirty work.
Yeah.
So they got to get in there and do it.
Hey, does Ozzie Newsome have any eligibility left? Taking it way back there. All right. Well, okay. Well, I feel worse now. So I think that's a good place to leave the show. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think things to look forward to, guys. Seriously, I think TJ Alford's a Buckeye on Saturday. We have good things coming. Things are rolling. Every team has a problem area. It's we're not alone in that. And I think they have time to get it fixed. So, Dan, last thoughts, last words, man.
I'm just super excited to see what happens tomorrow at the Student Appreciation Day. I think that, you're going to see a lot of red zone work in there, and, there's going to be a lot of buzz, coming out for certain people. A little bit of a prelude for the spring game in a couple weeks, but big day tomorrow. Media's in there the whole time, so we should get some good tidbits and stuff like that. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm excited for the spring game. Very excited. I go every year. I think I've missed 2 years. 1 year was the COVID year, and they didn't have it. And then 1 year, I had tickets, and I had the worst flu I've ever had, and could not. I was like, I can't function and go to the game, so I gave my tickets away.
You going with the whole family?
I am. Yep. So my son and daughter are coming. My wife, my mom, who has never been to a spring game. I used to go with my dad, as you know. And then, so she's never gone. And then, my brother is coming. So yeah, taking the whole fam.
I'm jealous, man. You're going to have to give me all the feedback.
Yeah. We'll be in the Huntington Club if you want to come find me. Cause I'm sure my wife will be hiding in there out of the, whatever, if it's hot, she'll be in there. If it's cold, she'll be in there. So, and we'll be enjoying the game. So I'll fill you in, and I'm planning to take my selfie stick so that I can try to do some live shots around. And last year I was fortunate enough, I mentioned, I ran into Kirk Barton, I ran into Carl Jones, I ran into DeVere Posey, and a few other folks. So if I run into him again, I'm hoping to get a quick word with them and be like, hey, I have a podcast, can you say hi?
Let's get them on.
That kind of stuff. So they were really great, they were really nice, and he was there promoting the foundation and stuff in the up around the suites and stuff. So
nice.
Anyways, well, have a good Easter weekend, everybody. Appreciate you guys. I've been on vacation the second half of this week, enjoying spring break with my kiddos, and let's see how things shake out with TJ Alford tomorrow. And other than that, you guys have a safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.